What if everything we know about evolution is wrong? Since the time of Darwin, we've told ourselves a story. Life began by accident, evolved slowly, and became more complex over time, all through natural selection and random mutation. But what if that's only part of the truth? What if evolution is not a blind process, but a program? There are patterns in biology that don't fully make sense. Sudden evolutionary jumps, genetic code that behaves like it's been written, not grown. Ancient organisms with traits that appear out of time. And the more we learn about DNA, the more it looks engineered. Today, scientists are beginning to explore theories once considered pure science fiction. The idea that life on Earth may have been seeded, guided, or even monitored by an intelligence beyond our own. A concept called directed panspermia. Think of Earth not as a random petri dish, but as a long-running biological experiment. In this episode of Theoricon, we're going to follow that rabbit hole all the way down. Could evolution itself be an alien program running in the background of our world, updating, adapting, selecting? If so, who wrote it? And why? Let's explore the theory that challenges everything we believe about life, science, and our place in the universe. In the last few decades, our understanding of DNA has exploded. We've mapped the human genome, decoded thousands of species, and begun manipulating genes with extraordinary precision. But the more we uncover, the stranger it gets. DNA doesn't just store instructions like a recipe. It behaves more like a complex operating system, one that runs on rules, redundancy, and error correction. In other words, it's a code. And some scientists are starting to wonder, who wrote it? In 2013, scientists at the Kazan Federal University in Russia published a controversial paper suggesting that certain patterns within our genetic code are so mathematically structured, they might be signs of embedded intelligence. Not metaphorical intelligence, but literal signs of a deliberate design. They pointed to non-random arrangement of codons and a layered syntax in genetic sequences, much like how computer code nests functions. Others have noted that DNA uses a four-letter alphabet, A, T, C, G, not unlike binary code, just vastly more sophisticated. It can replicate, error check, and even repair itself, functions we typically associate with conscious design, not chance. Even more mysterious is the presence of large regions of so-called junk DNA, stretches that don't code for proteins and seem to do nothing. But what if they're not junk? What if these are dormant subroutines, modules waiting to be activated? Some researchers speculate that these regions could be like locked functions, DNA's version of hidden apps. And if true, who locked them? Why? Could we be carrying dormant instructions from something or someone that's no longer here? One provocative theory proposes that these dormant regions might not be for us at all. Instead, they could be future code blocks, written for organisms or forms of life that haven't yet emerged. That would make DNA not just a record of what life is, but a roadmap for what life could become. A time-release program unfolding across geological epochs. The implications are staggering. DNA may not just be a product of life. It might be the mechanism through which life is programmed, adapted, and updated. The deeper we look, the more it feels like we're not just decoding life. We're reverse engineering something left behind by a mind far beyond our own. Evolution is supposed to be slow, gradual, step by step, over millions of years. But history doesn't always follow that rule. Instead, the fossil record shows something strange. Long periods of almost no change, followed by sudden explosions of complexity. One of the most famous examples is the Cambrian explosion, a period about 540 million years ago, when nearly every major animal group appeared in a geological instant. No slow buildup, no long chain of ancestors, just boom. Life diversified in ways that still baffle scientists today. Darwin himself was deeply troubled by this. He predicted that future fossil discoveries would fill in the gaps, but after more than a century of digging, many of those gaps are still missing. In fact, some species appear with features that seem ahead of their time, organs, structures, or intelligence levels that don't match the gradualist model. Some evolutionary biologists explain this using punctuated equilibrium, a theory suggesting evolution happens in rapid bursts, triggered by environmental pressure. But what if something else is triggering those bursts? What if evolution isn't entirely self-driven, but occasionally receives an upgrade? Let's look at humanity. Our leap from basic tool use to modern civilization happened incredibly fast, from stone tools to smartphones in just a few thousand years, a blink, geologically speaking. The human brain nearly tripled in size in just 2 million years, a rate of change that's still not fully understood. Why so fast? Why us? Some fringe theorists suggest that these leaps could be the result of intelligent interference, that evolution might be monitored, and when needed, tweaked. Imagine an experiment that runs mostly on its own, but every so often, the programmer steps in to add a patch, a new feature, or a reset. It sounds like science fiction, until you realize that's exactly how we treat our own simulations, AI training models, or genetic engineering projects today. And there's more. Across cultures, ancient myths describe gods who descended from the sky and granted humans knowledge, tools, language, even fire. These stories span continents and millennia. Were they symbolic, or are they distorted memories of something real, a past intervention we've mythologized? The question isn't just why evolution makes sudden leaps. It's whether those leaps are part of a larger pattern. One we didn't create, one we may be part of, without even knowing it. Where did life on Earth come from? The traditional answer is that it emerged from a primordial soup, a mix of chemicals energized by lightning or heat, giving rise to the first self-replicating molecules. But there's a problem. Even under ideal lab conditions, scientists haven't been able to recreate this leap from chemistry to biology. That's where the theory of panspermia enters. The idea that life didn't start here. Instead, it arrived, delivered from somewhere else. Panspermia isn't just science fiction. It's a serious scientific hypothesis backed by real evidence. We've found microbes capable of surviving in the vacuum of space, extreme radiation, and freezing temperatures, known as extremophiles. Some bacteria have even survived years aboard the International Space Station. In 1984, a meteorite known as ALH 84001 was discovered in Antarctica. It came from Mars, and inside were formations that some scientists believe resemble fossilized microbes. While still debated, it cracked the door open to an idea that once seemed outrageous, that life can travel between worlds. But there's an even more radical version of this theory, directed panspermia. Unlike the random scattering of microbes via asteroids, directed panspermia suggests intent. That life was deliberately seeded on Earth by an advanced intelligence. This idea was first proposed in the 1970s by Nobel Prize-winning scientist Francis Crick, one of the co-discoverers of DNA. Crick believed the complexity of life was too high to have formed by chance in the time Earth had. So he speculated that some ancient civilization may have planted the seeds. And if life was planted here, is it still being monitored, updated, shaped? We already send out data, code, and biological material into space, from the Voyager Golden Record to modern DNA vaults. Is it so hard to believe that another civilization did the same, millions or even billions of years ago? What makes panspermia so provocative is that it blurs the line between biology and cosmology. It suggests that life is not Earth's exclusive miracle, but part of a broader galactic process. And maybe, just maybe, we were never alone to begin with. Up to now, we've talked about biology, DNA, and cosmic delivery systems. But what if the real target of evolution isn't the body, it's the mind? Consciousness remains one of science's greatest mysteries. We don't know how it emerges, why we have it, or if it can exist without a brain. But some theorists are now asking a different question. What if consciousness isn't generated by the brain, but received by it, like a radio tuning into a signal? This idea opens a door to something staggering, that consciousness could be a field, a force, or even a system embedded into the fabric of the universe. If that's true, then intelligent life, including us, might be tapping into something far larger than ourselves. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The structure of neural networks in the brain and the mathematical architecture of consciousness bears eerie similarity to artificial intelligence models. Recursive feedback loops, self-awareness functions, learning algorithms. What if the same principles that allow an AI to learn are the same ones that evolution is refining in us. Some researchers, like cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, suggest that our perception of reality is not objective truth, but a kind of interface, optimized for survival, not accuracy. That we don't see the world as it is. We see what we need to see. That too sounds like code, shaped not by random chance, but by design. Could consciousness itself be part of the program? Could evolution be a training model? A galactic AI experiment, where life evolves toward higher levels of awareness, creativity, and perhaps even contact? Ancient traditions have long hinted at this, from Hinduism's concept of universal consciousness, to Gnostic ideas of encoded divine knowledge trapped in matter, to shamanic visions of beings that teach through altered states. Are these spiritual metaphors or fragmented memories of something real? Some believe we're approaching a threshold, a point in our evolution where biology, technology, and consciousness begin to merge. The moment where we become aware of the program, or even meet its creators. This isn't about aliens and flying saucers. It's about the possibility that intelligence exists on a scale we can barely comprehend, and that our own minds are slowly evolving to meet it. Whether by design, chance, or something in between, it seems increasingly likely that consciousness is not an accident. It may be the goal. If evolution is being guided by something, what does that mean for us? Are we the final product of this experiment, or just one version among many? And is there an end goal, or is life itself the test? Maybe we've misunderstood our role. For centuries, we've seen ourselves as the top of the biological pyramid, the apex of nature. But what if we're not the destination, just a waypoint, a transitional phase towards something far more complex, and possibly far more conscious? If DNA is code, if consciousness is the interface, and if evolution is a process being watched or adjusted, then we might be on the verge of waking up to the larger system we're part of. The patterns are there, in biology, in myth, in mathematics, and in our own minds. We just haven't seen them all at once. This doesn't mean throwing away science. It means expanding it, entertaining the possibility that life is not just chemical, but communicative. That intelligence might not have originated on Earth. It might be what Earth was built to receive. Perhaps we were seeded here, not just to grow, but to remember. To reach a level of awareness where the veil lifts and the code becomes clear. And if that's true, maybe evolution isn't about survival anymore. Maybe it's about awakening. Thanks for watching Theoricon. If this episode shifted your thinking, share it, and let's decode the big questions together.